well, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Lions' newest receiver, Breshaud Perriman, who they signed yesterday to a one-year, $3 million deal from the New York Jets. So the Detroit Lions add a speedy receiver, and today we're going to go through things that I think he can bring to the table, things that he does extremely well, and also some things that he doesn't do so well, and maybe part of the reason that his price wasn't super expensive. Breshaud Perriman spent last year with the New York Jets, and he put up some solid numbers with the Jets. He wasn't crazy good, but he was solid, and he was looked at as one of their top receivers last year. He played okay, but there were definitely some issues there. He had some mistakes, you know, and we'll take a look at those in the video. He had a little bit of injury issues last season, and he also had awful quarterback play. And really, the whole offense struggled, but the quarterback play was not very good. With Joe Flacco and Sam Darnold, it was not the best supporting quarterback that he could have had, so there were a lot of missed passes, which is actually how we're going to start this video. So as I talk, I'm going to like to just kind of play in the background, and I'm just going to show a few examples of some of the missed passes that have been out there, some of the missed opportunities that were kind of left on the field. See, Breshaud Perriman is a very big talent. He was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, and a lot of people looked at him like a bust. You know, they said, okay, this is a bust that we just brought in here, and he struggled. He really did. He had a lot of drop issues. It was just a problem. He didn't play that well coming out of the gate. He was drafted because of his size at 6'2", 215, and also the fact that he could just absolutely blow by defenders. But unfortunately, he had a lot of drop issues, and you know, he just did not live up to that bill of being the top receiver for the Ravens like they hoped. However, in 2019 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he really bounced back, and he had his career season with quarterback Jameis Winston. And Jameis Winston isn't the best quarterback either, but he did have his best season with Winston. I'll show you guys one more here on that pass, and we're going to stop right there. Another reason I had to bring up quarterback play is because it definitely affects his stats. When you look at targets to receptions, and sometimes it looks lower than maybe you'd hope, well, there are a lot of passes that he's technically targeted on, and some aren't even close, and they're not as bad as some I'm going to show in here, but, you know, some that he's technically targeted on, and they're not caught, but, you know, they're not really necessarily his fault because they're just bad throws. Before that was Baker Mayfield and Tyrod Taylor. Baker's rookie season, he just hasn't had the best quarterback play over the course of his career. I think Goff will be an upgrade from Jameis Winston and from Joe Flacco / Sam Darnold next season. But now that we took a look at some of the missed opportunities, let's talk about one of the biggest issues last season. Yes, there were some injury issues with Breshaud Perriman, but let's talk about one of the biggest problems. And this problem is something that goes back to the draft. When he came out of the draft, it was like, man, he has issues because he drops too many passes. You know, I look at it, right? If you're a receiver, you can't catch the ball, like, that ain't good. What I want out of my receiver is first, you have to be able to catch the football. I want you to be able to catch the ball first. And he struggled with that early in his career. But 2019, he really did well. And he had a lot of catches. I think he had the most receptions that season. And he only had one drop on the entire year for Tampa Bay in 2019. It was great. I mean, there wasn't many receivers that had over 50 receptions with only one drop. He played phenomenal. And it was great to see that kind of bounce back. So the Jets brought him into a pretty nice deal. I think it was like $6.5 million for 1 year. So the Jets brought him in, and they needed his top receiver. They just needed a receiver help, honestly. They bring him in, but he never really became that number one guy. And he also had, you know, some of those drops come up. It wasn't that bad. You know, they weren't easy passes to catch, but, you know, there were some drops. And it just didn't seem like he was always in the rhythm here. And I think injuries had to do with part of that. Let's start off with this example first. We got number 19 here, Breshaud Perriman. You can see he's got a lot of size. And coming out of the combine, you know, he put up ridiculous 40 time. It was like a 4.25 or it was a 4.19. Either way, it was insane. I mean, the guy was so fast, and that's kind of what he's known for. He's known for his speed, for having a lot of good size, but also being extremely fast. A guy that can absolutely just stretch the field, run by corners. If you don't have a safety up over top, it's usually going to be an issue. It's tough to press him because he can absolutely just burn you, and that's clearly his best trait. However, like I said, coming out of college, one of the issues was dropping the football. Now, last season and the year before, like I said, Tampa Bay, he really improved. He wasn't dropping the ball. Last season, he had a few drops. They weren't easy passes. I realized that he doesn't have the strongest hands. And what I mean by that is, like, when the ball is up in the air, you know, with contact, finishing through the process. Balls that are really low that he has to reach down, you'll notice as we go through this. So let's start with this one. He's at the top of the screen here. Breshaud Perriman makes a really nice move off the release. He can get a lot of separation. He can get in a hurry, and he can just, oh my goodness, he can gap you fast. I mean, this guy can gap fast because he can just absolutely just fly once he gets rolling downfield. Here's an example. Beats the defender, gets a pretty nice pass here, and you can see he's got his hands on it. He's just unable to complete the process of that grab. Put tons of examples in here, like A lot of the drops that he had on the season are pretty much in this entire video. I watched every game that Breshaud Perriman played in last season with the New York Jets, okay? So, you know, just keep them in mind. I watched every game. So, the drops that I did see, I try to keep most of them and put them all in here and just kind of show you guys a nice variety of, you know, some of the drops that he did have. I didn't think any of them were terrible. There wasn't too many terrible drops, but clearly like this, you saw an issue with his ability to, you know, finish the process. Holiday, Marvin, no matter who it is, they're not consistently winning these 50-50 ball opportunities. The thing is, when you look at a guy like Breshaud Perriman and you take a look at his yards per reception, I mean, it's a very high yards per reception, so a lot of his passes are deeper passes, and the catch rate that he's, you know, outputting, it's not tremendous, but it's, you know, relatively, you know, not terrible when you compare him to a guy like Holiday, who's going to get paid tons of money. You know, even Kelvin Johnson, you know, his highest catch percentage was just over 60%. I understand he was getting double teams, and I get it, but my point is they have very high catch percentage when your yards per attempt is so high. Plus, like I said, his quarterback play was rough. So that catch percentage really dropped when, you know, some of the quarterback play wasn't near him. Like some of the passes just weren't catchable, but they still count, and because it's targets to receptions, it still counts against it. I think PFF does a really good job of illustrating this with the receiving grade. So, for example, in 2020 last season, he was getting a 62.6 receiving grade. Now, Marvin, Galladay, those guys hovered in the 70s, you know, a little bit lower 70s. That's where they kind of hovered with their receiving grades. So last season, he was getting 62.6, which is known as basically okay to good grade as a receiver. In 2019, he was given a 72 receiving grade, which is a good to great grade, more of a great grade. That's more of around the Galladay to Marvin Jones, around their kind of receiving grades. And in 2018, it was 76. So you can see that 18 and 19, he really started to pick it up, as I said. Like, he was good in those two seasons, specifically more 2019 for the Buccaneers, because he kind of became the guy. I mean, there was a stretch in 2019 where in 5 games in December, he had over 500 yards receiving because there was injuries that came about, and they had him be one of their top guys. He had to work through it. He had to go through the depth chart, work his way up. But once injury struck, they asked him to be their guy on the outside. I mean, he just went on a tear. And there's not many guys for $3 million that you're going to get with that kind of upside, right? What he can be. And once he gets in a rhythm, once he gets in the flow, and you can tell when his confidence is rising, you can tell that clearly he's put a focus on his game on making sure I catch the ball, making sure I'm not dropping easiest passes. There's concentration. A lot of the easier passes, he's going out and reaching and snagging for him. He's not letting them hit his body. You can just tell there's a focus. I have to make sure I'm catching the football. But still, there's something that needs to be added to his game, and that's completing the process consistently. And last season, we saw some glimpses of that being an issue. They didn't see a lot of easy, boneheaded, like, oh, come on, you can't drop that. 18, sure, PFF grade reflects it, but 2019 to me was really that coming out party, where it was like, okay, this guy is like clearly put a focus on. He's got to catch the ball. And I mean, that was an issue. I mean, there's no denying it. College, they said it, right? There's a problem. He drops too many passes, but he's drafted because of his size and speed that you can't teach. But then early in his career with Baltimore, I mean, he was dropping the ball, and it was like, dude, you can't drop these. I mean, there were tip interceptions to defenders. It was wide open drops. That can't happen, you know, when you're drafted that high, when you're a higher draft pick. But clearly, it was a focus, and he focused on it. And while he's still not perfect, there's been improvement. Numbers will 100% back that up. Last 3 seasons, only 3 drops according to Pro Football Reference. That's impressive. 2019 was like coming out party where he had 1 drop according to, I can't remember who that was according to, because Pro Football Reference didn't count for one in 2019. Everybody's different. But, you know, for 50 receptions to only have 1, which only a handful of receivers were in that category. But I did see some finishing the process drops, and they weren't easy, as we'll see. And this one's a little bit underthrown, as you guys can tell here. But that was just something about his game. Just not able to, you know, finish the process consistently. And he would flash with some beautiful catches, which we'll see, that were just like, man, that's incredible. But last season in particular, he just wasn't always able to finish. This one, you're going to see him dragging across the field here, which we're definitely going to get to. This one, you know, really tough. I mean, that's not easy, right? I mean, it's kind of behind. You're kind of reaching back while you're going full speed. But again, that's not able to finish. And I think that's just something with it. To me, it's not, I don't know if it's a concentration issue, because he seems to bring it in. He just can't really tuck in and finish through the play. So maybe it is concentration. But I think when it comes to drops, when people say he has drop issues, I think in the past he had drop issues. You saw him dropping easy passes and kind of just tipping it to defenders. It was like, what the heck are you doing, Perriman? But last season in particular, because Tampa Bay, he really didn't have any. Last season in particular, when they started to show up a little bit, it wasn't really just like flat out obvious, oh, I just dropped the ball. It was more not being able to finish, you know, the process or fight through all the time. Like this one. This one's a lower pass. Not the easiest one, right? I mean, this isn't easy, but he's unable to call that in and bring it down. And again, he's going at full speed, right? He is flying. So it's tricky. Some of these are difficult, I understand. And I'm trying to show all the examples I can here, like this, right? I mean, this is another 50-50 ball. As you can see off the release, great separation. He starts to gap him. But he has to go up and try to make the grab. He's trying to fight through contact, try to get his feet in bounds, and he's unable to make that play. And that's the thing. Like, clearly not, this didn't happen every time, but I tried to show you guys, you know, the issues first before we start to get into what I think he can bring to the team. So those are just a few things that came up last season. And I think that's a very big reason that he was only $3 million. But I still think what he can do, his pros completely outweigh the cons when you talk about that price tag. If we played him $8 million a year, now you're a little bit more like, ooh, I don't know about this one because of injuries, things like that, missing some time. But you're talking about $3 million a year, $3 million, which is, you know, a little bit more than we paid our backup quarterback potentially. I mean, you can't really go wrong with a signing like this. So let's take a look at what I think he can bring to the team. And we're going to start off with the shotgun drop first, because we're going to see that with the Lions. And you got him at the bottom of the screen here. And you're just going to get him on a long drag. And that's the thing about his game. I mean, clearly his strength is speed. All right. And I don't think he's the twitchiest, but I definitely see the top end speed. I mean, this guy can absolutely fly, and he's got a really nice release at times. He can just burn by guys, and you can just see the separation that he can just start to create effortlessly. And he gets a lot of space, and he's able to get really open. One thing that the Lions didn't have with Kenny and Marvin is they didn't have guys that could consistently get a lot of separation. Breshaud Perriman is a little bit different, right? He doesn't win as many 50-50 jump balls, go take it out of the air as Marvin and Kenny would, but he'll get more separation than those guys will. I can guarantee it. So you're going to get him at the bottom of the screen here. Again, same thing, right? And I think this one is a perfect example because I'm pretty sure this is a play action play. I think that's what this was. I'm not 100% sure, but again, dragging across, same thing against Miami. You can see the ridiculous amount of separation that he can get just because of his speed. And, you know, they think, hey, we're going to pass him off. They don't pass him off, and he's just going to fly across the field. You get a man-to-man on drags. If you're not passing him off, it's basically impossible to keep up with this guy. And then for zone, he can just fly past linebackers that are trying to pass him off as well. So it's a really difficult matchup, and I think here's a great example. We watched this, just picture Jared Goff right under center right now, okay? And when we watched this film, how much play action bootleg he was involved in, and how that's kind of Jared Goff's thing. And even he acknowledged that was his thing last season, even though he played a lot more shotgun in college, and before that in high school. Last year, you know, and really with the Rams, it was all about play action under center. And that's what they did a lot. And that's what I think we're going to see a lot with the Lions. You know, they're going to get that run game going. They brought in Jamal Williams. They have Swift. And then you're going to see stuff off it like this, play action. I think Terrell Williams fits that really well because he's the type of guy that takes some build up, and he can do a really nice release and play the outside. He's got really nice size. He can be more of your jump ball, go up and get it guy. Perriman, not as much, but he's got great size to play on the outside. Also versatility to play on the slot, which we'll see. But he can play on the outside, and he can burn and kind of do these same things, drag routes underneath 10, 15 yards consistently and just run by guys. You're going to see that here. And there's no chance. I mean, this corner's not even near him, right? I mean, that's just a ridiculous amount of separation that some guys just can't get. And the thing is, cornerbacks have to give him tons of cushion because in this set, let's take a look at it defensively. They're playing a single high deep safety. You have one safety, right? So this safety can't shade to his side, or you can try to shade to his side, but that will leave this side of the field open. So he's just got to play the deep middle of the field, which means that this cornerback, worried about him getting deep because of his top end speed, forced him to give him a ton of cushion, and it's just wide open. I mean, there's just no chance here in a man-to-man defense. Man-to-man, he's going to dominate. He could dominate against teams that play man-to-man, and you'll see that against New England where he just goes off. Another great example here, same thing, play action. Roll out, get him on the drag. And this one, he doesn't come up with the grab here, but you could see they're going to try to shoot down because I guess the Bills play a lot of single high. So the safety's going to try to jump down on this and try to get in the way. And he still really couldn't catch up to him. I mean, he had the angle and he couldn't do it, but he draws a pass interference. That's one thing about his game that we'll see at the end. The guy draws so many pass interference calls. It's insane how many. And a lot of them come by he burns somebody. The quarterback will throw the pass, works his way back to the football, and it's a pass interference. He is so fast that he draws so much pass interference. He draws a lot of safety help and attention because, again, he just has that top end speed that you can't match up with. Here he is, top of the screen here. He's got a clean release. You know, the cornerback doesn't get physical, and I think that's what you have to do to slow him down. I noticed is you got to really get physical with him. You got to bump him at the line. You got to throw him off that route. If he gets a clean release, at that point, he can start picking up to that second level speed, and then it's a problem. But on this play, it's again all timing, right? Play action, boom, he's off his back leg, right out of the break, and you got him, you throw it that way. And it's a really nice job, you know, being physical downfield to go make that play. No pass interference call offensively there. And that's what we're going to see a lot. So I just thought I'd just show this because this is why I think he fits in the scheme, because all this play action. Play action again here, you're going to get him running across a deep middle. And again, it's like this receiver, which could be our Terrell Williams, draws the safety deep because Terrell Williams has that top end speed where he's going to take safeties with him. So you throw him through the middle to draw the safety with him, and it leaves a wide open area in the middle of the field where one-on-one, you just can't keep up with him. It was a bad throw behind him, but you can't keep up with him man-to-man speed. It's just, you're not going to do it, right? I mean, if you're trying to catch him across the middle, there's no chance. You're just not going to do it. There's not cornerbacks in the league that are that fast. This time, top of the screen, again, play action. This time he's going to drag across the middle here, and this time he's going against his zone defense, but you can see him kind of maneuver his way through the zone, do a great job working through it here. But again, even guys try to pass him off. I mean, he's just too fast, right? This linebacker, because you don't see him, this linebacker tries to pass it off to this one, and he's just too fast to fill in that gap. He slides down, makes a really nice grab. No contest there, right? They're not, being able to contest at the point of attack. So he's got some room, and he's able to make a nice play on the ball. Again, timing. Everything is timing, right? Play action. Back of your drop, he's cutting across the middle, absolutely just loses this corner. Look how much cushion they have to give him, 5 yards before the snap because there's no safety help over top. And he's just worried about him going deep, and then whoop, there he goes middle. And I mean, it's just a crazy amount of separation that he's going to get that past receivers didn't do with us. And obviously you see after the grab, just that top end speed, he can just fly, right? He can absolutely fly. So that's something that he's going to bring that we didn't have with our past 2 outside receivers, is just he can just simply go, and he's going to create tons of separation. Won't win as many jump 50-50 balls, but if you think about Goff, how many times did he do that in the past, right? And Terrell Williams, to me, is that guy that can win those 50-50, go up and get it, that can get good leverage with his size. But even he doesn't win it at the rate that Galladay and Marvin did, right? Those guys create more separation. They're a little bit crisper, I think, and he really does it just because of his speed. And the Lions haven't had a guy with this kind of speed, I don't think, at receiver before. I don't know if they have. Here you go at top of the screen here. You're going to see a nice little release. He's got one-on-one, and these are the kind of flashes that you see out of him, and you say, man, if you could just find this more consistency. But the thing is, when you throw deep routes, I know his catch rate's 50-60%, but that's the same percent that you see when you look at Galladay stats, when you look at those guys, because they're not catching a ton of their passes. Because when you're getting targeted like this, it's not easy to come up with a lot of these grabs, and that's a lot of his targets are either deep drags, which, he gets to the high percent of those, or it's one-on-one like this, throw it up and go get it. And you'll see flashes like that where you say, wow, that's a tremendous catch. And I think you're finding more consistency as career goes on, because remember, he's still pretty young, and he's had to deal with a lot of injuries. He's only 27 years old, so he's still a relatively young player that's had to miss some time, and he's had to kind of deal with that. Here you're going to get him in a bunch set here. He starts from the middle, works his way inside, and then he breaks it to the outside. And again, it's just too much speed. Like, there's no chance, right? You have no safety help, so you have this corner. He's got a head start, but he just works his way to the outside, and there's no chance for this corner to keep up. Kind of leaves him probably too far out of bounds, but nice, a really nice grab. Seen some of the speed on drags and things like that, but let's talk about this breakaway speed. Let's talk about this second gear where he can just gap defenders, where he can stack defenders quickly. And here's an example here. You get a nice little double move to the outside and just kind of work his way back in. So he's going to work from the outside. He's got the cornerback to bite there, and then he just slightly works his way back inside. You could just see, again, a little bit underthrown there. It's a long pass to throw, I get it, but he's able to make the play. He's able to get the inside leverage on that cornerback, and you can see his speed just play off. This one is just, this one's nasty. This one is just, woo! I mean, these are the flashes, and again, watch out. Notice how the corner here is unable to get his hands on him. You notice how the corner, because they're so worried about his speed, they don't want to be physical. So because there's no safety help, the cornerback doesn't want to be physical with him, right? He's too worried about getting blown by. So instead of jabbing, worrying about, hey, if he gets by me, he's going to have a clean release to the end zone, he just backs up. He immediately backs up. So the problem here is because he's immediately backing up, the issue is here, he's falling off his feet because he's just clean release, no touch, I'm just going to outrun you. And that's what he does here. And he's so worried about the speed, and he's trying to play tight, and he breaks his ankles. It's just as simple as that. And that's the thing, is that this is why running the ball is so important, because if you can run the football, you're going to force teams to stop playing two deep safety. You're going to force teams to put guys in the box, and that's going to open up these one-on-one opportunities. Then, if you get your receiver able to be one-on-one, now you have problems because he can go deep. He can fly by you. Try to get up and press. If you slip up at all, he's gone. He's absolutely gone. And since they're worried about that, they'll give him space. They'll give him cushion. And now it's easy drags over the middle. It's easy short routes, and he's got tons of separation just because of the threat that he can go by you. Speed can't be coached, right? You can't coach the kind of speed that this guy has, and that's exactly what you see in this video. Here you're going to get a top of screen here. Again, not physical with him. You notice how he doesn't have safety help to his side, so he's not getting up and pushing him. He's not punching him at the line, and you see a nice little move outside, break in, and then double pop, and he's got no help over top, and he just runs right past the defender, and he's gone in the clear for a touchdown. And again, against Patriots who run a lot of man-to-man, that was an issue. I threw in a couple of clips here from Tampa Bay, which is 2019. I just want to show you, the guy didn't drop the ball, and he was toe tapping. I mean, he looked beautiful, like these catches right here. He looked incredible in 2019. So it's almost like because of the injuries, maybe the bad quarterback play, just not confidence. I don't know what it was. Maybe just being off rhythm so often. I'm not sure. But he did have a few more drops last season. But again, they weren't easy drops. They were reasonable drops. 3 drops in the last 3 seasons, according to Pro Football Reference, which obviously is solid. Now let's get back to that Jets time. And I just want to show you his example of ability to play in the slot. You know, you can line up in the slot, you can put him at different spots on the field. Just a nice little simple route. That's the kind of thing that he can play that role for you. See him reach out, snag it. He understands that dropping is an issue in his game. So I think there's a lot of focus there because he understands that he needs to make grabs. And there's a couple of nice grabs here, right? It's not contested. I think that's the thing is if you're a corner, you got to be physical with him. You're going to have safety help over the top. And at the point of attack, you have to be punching at the ball because he doesn't have the strong hands. He seems like to pull it through and finish the process. But you could see him reach out and pluck some balls out of the air here, which is impressive, right? He's snagging it. It's nice. You love to see that. Again, against the Patriots, where he just went, I mean, ballistic against the Patriots. It was kind of wild how well he played against the New England Patriots. Backing up, and you just work him out to an out route. Easy. That's the kind of thing that he brings. That's the kind of threat that he has because of that top end speed. Cushion all across the board here for the Dolphins, and you're just going to get a nice little screenplay. You can also use him here as well. I don't think he's super shifty or twitchy when he has the ball in his hand, so he's not making tons of guys miss. But once he gets rolling downhill, you can see the speed. Doesn't break a lot of tackles either. You can just tell he's not running through tackles. He has nice size, but he's not running through a ton of tackles. He's definitely not Golden Tate. And then we're going to talk about where I think, again, this is where I said you got to play him. This is how you have to play him as a receiver. Here's a great example. You got to get physical with him at the line. Notice how this corner holds him at the line. Now, this could be called for holding because he does hold him the whole way, but he doesn't break as smooth out of his routes, right? He's not as quick. He's not bursting. You know, you don't see that power, and you would like to see more power. He doesn't show a lot of power when he's playing physical against physical corners. This is how you slow him down. You play physical with him. Now, sure, this is an awful pass and decision here just to throw right at the defender, but it's all timing, right? You throw off the timing. You throw off the scheduled passes when you're physical with receivers at the line. Also, the difference you'll notice about this clip is there's safety help over top of this corner, so he understands that he can get up and be physical because he doesn't have that threat of, he's going to go right by me. I have no help behind me. He understands that he can get up because there's a safety deep that's going to be behind him if he gets burnt deep, so he can go up and be physical. And this is, again, why I think running is so important and why Jamal Williams is such a beautiful signing, because Swift can run the ball and he can, really hurt defenses and force you to understand that you got to stop the run. But now you have that 1-2 punch with Jamal Williams. That's just going to add even more to it. And now you have Jamal to come in if you don't have Swift for whatever reason. You're going to see him at the bottom of the screen here, right? He's going to trust his ability to play man on man. But this is the kind of thing that he does. This is the kind of thing that he does. That's just one example. But he drew so many. 3 plays later, defensive pass interference. Next game, defensive pass interference. And it's just these big chunks that they're picking up because guys have to worry. This is a really good corner in White here. He does a really nice job staying off him off the release. But then he has to get physical downfield, and you get a pass interference call there. So I think here's the verdict. Here's what I wrote down about him. He's going to play outside receiver he can play outside receiver for the Lions. I think with his size, his ability to be a deep threat, he fits the scheme extremely well. He has versatility to fly in the slot depending on what you're doing, how many receivers you have out there. But him and Terrell Williams can be 2 outside receivers that can stretch the field, right? Can stretch the field, and he's going to have that top end speed. He's going to be perfect in drag routes. And I think Terrell Williams can be the guy to go deep more, give you a little bit more size, a little bit better of a jump ball player. And then that can move Quintez Cephus to slot. Cephus isn't going to be, a Golden Tate type of slot. Cephus is not going to be an Amendola type of slot because he's a little bit too big. Cephus is more of an Anquan Bolden type of slot. You remember when Anquan was the Lion? As, he's got more size. He's 6'1", 200 plus, and he's not super fast, so he's not like a Tate, right? He's not super quick where he's burning guys, but he's quick enough versus linebackers, and he's physical enough. But Cephus coming out of the draft, even though he wasn't super fast, it was just his ability to get separation, the knack to find separation. And what you notice with some of these guys that we've been signing, right? You got Terrell Williams to be that outside threat that can go up and get it, but get some nice separation. We saw that in the film. But now you have this guy with Breshaud Perriman, tons of speed, forces safety help, draws ridiculous amount of separation, and then you get Cephus, who also has a knack for giving separation. I think you bump him in the slot more often than not, and you got a solid 3 right there with Allison being your 4. And the way I look at it as, I would draft another outside receiver. Not saying I do it at 7, not at all, but I would draft one somewhere. I'm not the biggest guy for drafting a receiver at 7, but I would do it at some point. I would definitely draft another outside receiver and a slot if you want. You could still go 2, maybe you sign one to use UDFA, but I bring in another outside receiver somewhere for 1, competition, 2, because Perriman has had injury history, so he's probably going to likely miss a few games. I hate to say it, but he probably will. And because if he has a rough patch, if he has to make consistent play, you put the other guy in, and you bring that as motivation. You don't let him feel comfortable. You always have that guy pushing him. He's still a young player with ridiculous potential, and for 1 year, $3 million, you really couldn't get a better player with this high of upside. I don't think he's perfect, but I think recently we've seen his ability to be more focused. He's not dropping easy passes, but last year you saw his inability to finish through the process at time to time, and I think he just needs to be stronger there. And Dan Campbell said it today, hey, if you touch the ball, you better come down with it. So he's going to be pushed. You know he's going to be pushed, and that's why I bring in another outside receiver to compete with him. But it does allow the Lions to not say, hey, we have to do this at 7 because it's a need. He takes away the need. Think about it. At Tampa Bay, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin were down when he played there, so he became the guy. In 5 games in December for Tampa Bay, he had over 500 yards receiving. In 5 games. He could take that role. And with Tampa Bay, he was working his way slowly through the depth chart. He was pushed. He was forced to work. But injury struck. They said, hey, you got to be our top receiver. And he just went crazy because he has that type of upside where in 5 games, I can go 500 plus. How many receivers can you sign for $3 million to have the upside to go 500 plus in 5 games? I'm telling you, not many. Not many. But he has that type of upside. So if you push him, creating separation, that's getting downfield, that's using these drag routes, and you build his confidence up, he can be awesome. So I'm so happy Breshaud Perriman is lined. I think this is a great value for the pick. And you might be saying, well, he has some drop issues. Of course, he has some injury. Yeah, he does. You didn't pay $8 million for him. You paid $3 million. So it's understandable that he's not going to be perfect. If he was perfect, you should have paid more than $3 million. But the upside is closer to $6, $7, $8 million, which is what the Jets paid for him last season at $6.5. We're talking about him potentially getting $10 million a year. That's the kind of upside he has, and that's what he can bring to the table. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.